What are you surprised? 32:9 aspect ratio in a YouTube video? What? That's so crazy. YouTube supports it. I could make it thinner if I wanted to, or wider. Even really, this is a 3840 by 1080, but I can't full screen because it's across two screens. So you're gonna have to look at my taskbar. Just don't look too closely. Anyway, I'm going to try to answer some of my older emails. This is one that I got from Radiation Recopy Decoy. Interesting. Hello, Monster. Here's a question. What do you think is the future of Minecraft? I'm not asking about the updates, rather in what place Minecraft as a game/hobby, community, and product will be in 10 to 20 years. No one ever seems to think about that, maybe because Minecraft is so set in stone, everyone believes it's never going to change. I wonder what your thoughts are on this, since you appear to think more about the things you partake in than most people do. Well, I don't know if I think more about the things I partake in. Maybe I'm just more noisy than other people, but whatever. But I appreciate the compliment nonetheless. I do want to say, never assume that people aren't thinking about something or they're not realizing or recognizing something just because they haven't outwardly said it. This is a total aside, but there was a whole rise in the last few years of people calling other people NPCs, and that I think really is just from everyone atrophying their empathetic abilities. Normally, you should be able to look at a person and see a person and understand they have an entire inner world and dialogue of their own. But people are very enraptured in their own identity these days because they spend a lot of time online and not informing their own social skills. So when they look at other people, they no longer see that they are their own person. Instead, they see nothing. They see a blank face because you can't get into someone else's mind. And the empathetic skills that usually allow you to kind of peek into someone's mind are atrophied. So as a result, you see a lot of people calling others NPCs. And I know that's not what you meant at all, but that's just something that I was spurred on to talk about for no reason. This is so trippy, man. This is like it's like having my eyes dilated. My character's split in half between two screens. It's so bizarre. I mean, it looks normal for you. All right, let's try to do something while I talk. So this is something that I actually do think about a lot, and I think about the future of Minecraft's development and Mojang as a business most often. I guess I haven't thought too much about the community changing, although I do have opinions on it. So I'm going to talk about all those things. I'm also going to talk about the negatives first, because I feel like there is going to be negatives, and then I'm going to talk about the positives afterward. And then I'm going to make comparisons to God Emperor of Dune by Frank Herbert. Over the course of about 15 or so years, Minecraft has evolved from a small indie studio to a AAA plus gaming company. That is undeniable. It is the most sold video game of all time, if Wikipedia is to be believed. And you all know this already. This is not anything that I have to say, but it's something that we should keep in mind, because that's a lot of change in 15 years. And to still be essentially selling the same IP, I was going to say same product, but it's really kind of different. You can see how the game has been affected by this change pretty clearly. A lot of you probably still play modern Minecraft, right? So watching me play alpha is probably a very different experience than you're used to. Oh god. Navigating this chest was really... that's hard. Okay. There's this old video called Mojang Cribs, and it's like a bunch of people in an office in Stockholm. You have like Lydia, you have Vubu, you have Dinnerbone and Notch all in this place, and it seems like it's a pretty nice place to work. They have like gaming Fridays, and they have a bar, and they have like a kitchen and everything. It's a very nice little place. But before that, you know, it started as a single person project, and it was that for a long time. Nowadays, Mojang is the kind of workplace you see in those TikTok "what do I do in a day" videos, where it's like some woman sending 10 emails in a shift, and then she takes 4 sushi breaks and 5 coffee breaks, and that's her whole day. Oh yeah, and a nap. That is the kind of company that Mojang is. It has a massive amount of employees. I think hundreds. I don't really remember the exact number. And a lot of companies become that way. They don't necessarily need all those employees, but because it is a corporation and because it has a lot of requirements to fulfill, it has a lot of positions they need to have on paper, and there's a lot of managers who would like to delegate tasks broader and broader and broader and broader. I'm not a company man. I used to be. I'm not anymore. But like I said, I want to talk about the negatives first and the positives second. So as far as Minecraft's development, not necessarily what it has, but like what the game and the community will look like, and Mojang will look like, I kind of think that it will take on more of an identity similar to Roblox and Fortnite. That sounds kind of silly, but it already has a bunch of similarities with Fortnite. And I mean that with the intellectual property crossovers. I get ads for it. I haven't played it since 2019, but Fortnite just added The Simpsons or something. They had Invincible. They had some animes, Rick and Morty, I think. They're constantly adding new IP. It is a massive hodgepodge of everyone's favorite media. Why? Because it makes both groups lots of money. It does. It's a great investment. Fortnite is a shooter that everyone plays. It's a very popular shooter, and they keep adding new IP to it, bridging and bringing together audiences and more money. And if you're not a Minecraft Bedrock player, you may not realize this, but Minecraft does the exact same thing all the time with skin packs, data packs, maps, mods, add-ons in the marketplace. They do this constantly, and in the promotion as well. Minecraft, again, is the largest game of all time, and they don't need to do this nearly as much as other properties do. They're standalone, and they have enough culture and history that they can work off of that for a lot, and they do. Or at least they do now, because I think that as time goes on, more and more games are going to start sharing the spotlight with Minecraft, and so they're probably going to start doing more crossovers, more deals with other companies in this fashion, similar to Fortnite. It's made Fortnite a lot of money, and it would make Minecraft a lot of money too. For whatever reason, I got ads for Bedrock Edition that had like Goku in it or something. It's that kind of thing. I remember one of the Mojang sponsored leakers. It was, what is it, Robert Badgerman or it was something like that. There's always something like that. It was just like spamming emojis saying this is the next update, and then it ended up not being the next update, but it ended up being a Hello Kitty texture pack or something, or add-on. And everyone was very hyped for it because they thought it meant that Mojang was going to be adding seasons to the game, which they would never do, by the way. Everyone says this, but it's true. Mojang doesn't innovate nearly as much as a company as they used to, because like it or not, Minecraft used to have a visionary, as in one guy in charge with creative ideas. Other team members had their own ideas, of course. Most of the early game comes from Notch. Most of the early game structure and design, which is still present to this day, comes from one guy in his brain, you know? And now it's kind of done by committee. Now they reuse a lot of older concepts and make new concepts. And people like to say that I'm wrong about this. Like, oh no, the Copper Golem was a great addition, the Allay, the whatever. Copper Golem has existed for years in development, which is never released until now. This is a conspiracy theory, but I would like to guarantee that this is true, that Mojang has a... This is making me dizzy, oh my gosh. Mojang has a ton of content just kind of stored up under wraps that they will release over time. And it'll look like development, and it'll look like innovation, but really, it's derivatives of old things. The Copper Golem is interesting, but it really just makes certain processes of the games easier. But it is an interesting system, I will give it that. I mean, but what does it really add to the gameplay? It just makes item sorting easier. That's the way that I see it, and of course I could be wrong about that. But it doesn't add new challenges and new motivation to the player for gameplay reasons. That's something that I can be said, and you can disagree with me on this, but whatever. And I do believe that Mojang has a lot of property stored up, because all creative companies do. All of them do. When the writer's strike happened in Hollywood a few years ago, they were fine. Movies did not stop coming out. It wasn't just because of ChatGPT. It's because these production studios have vaults and vaults of scripts that have been written years and years ago that they just store up that they think are good ideas, because scripts are written a lot faster than movies can be produced. They keep tons of content hidden away. Every creative studio does. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that Java Edition will be discontinued. And that's another thing you may not agree with, which I understand, because it's a little bit of a buzzword. It's a little bit of like a moral panic, fear-mongering, that kind of thing. Whatever. I think it's definitely true. And the only reason I think that it's true is because Java Edition isn't nearly as profitable as Bedrock is. And this has been the case for a long time now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe people buy Bedrock Edition a lot faster than Java Edition. Not only that, but Java Edition has no marketplace integration. The mods, the skins, the textures are community-driven and community-made. It's not just how the game works, but it's also very cultural. This is going to be trippy. I'm going to try to ride a minecart. Whoa! When Microsoft bought the game, it was only a few years until they discontinued Legacy and console editions in favor of Bedrock. And you can still play Bedrock on consoles, of course, but Legacy is gone. Pocket Edition is gone effectively. It's because of consolidation. It's because of parity. It is a logical step for a company to make. Bedrock Edition has been pushed for a long time as a definitive version of Minecraft. I believe if you boot up Java today, it will say Java Edition, whereas if you boot up Bedrock, it doesn't actually tell you on the menu that it says Bedrock anymore, but I'm not... You'll have to confirm that for yourself. But I was surprised about that when I first saw it. But yes, Mojang stands to make way more money with something like Bedrock Edition. It's globalization, it's consolidation, it's parity. They can get more money, they can get more marketplace, and it's easier. It works on more systems. Not everybody has their own gaming computer. It's more profitable. So it makes logical sense. That's all I'm trying to say. There are people who are going to be like, oh, they're gonna discontinue Java. They're gonna make it illegal to play. Maybe there's not people doing that, but I think that some people think it's a big culture war thing where it's really not. It's really just a business decision. Likely they'll just discontinue Java Edition, but it will still be available to play, just like all the old versions are available to play. I've seen some people say that they might make the old versions unplayable. I do see that being a possibility solely because some execs at Microsoft or Mojang might start to worry that they're losing money on people playing old Minecraft for free, essentially, because I paid for this when I was like 10, right? So I think I bought one more alt account and then I never gave them another cent. So they're essentially losing money, or at least there's a lot more money to be made if they were to somehow force all the remaining Java players over to Bedrock. And there will be a lot more earning potential because then they'd be exposed to the marketplace, among other things. I think that's definitely going to happen. It is a matter of when. When is this going to happen? Rather than if. Now, there are people who say, well, you can't do that. The community would be outraged. But I think you also have to understand that the community, the Minecraft community, that would care about this sort of thing, they're aging out of the demographic. Like, they still play, but the most profitable, most prevalent, most common demographic of the game are kids. Kids with access to their parents' money, essentially. Kids who don't care about this kind of stuff and didn't grow up with it. So they're not going to care if Java Edition is discontinued because they have Bedrock. And Mojang doesn't really care so much about catering to Java Edition because of this reason. However, a reason that they would care, a social media could become a problem for them. And that's only because so much Minecraft YouTubers, which is the vast majority of their marketing, is just made up of YouTubers. They get it for free. They would be outraged. They'd cause up a stink. And outrage on YouTube, it builds on itself because if something becomes the trend, other people are going to be like, oh, I should also make a video about this, but I'm going to make the thumbnail and the title seem even more outrageous and crazy. If you've ever noticed that with trends, like one thing happens, one dramatic thing happens in a community somewhere, and then 10 more videos come out because one guy made a video about it and they realized they could start a trend, and it becomes overblown. That would happen, but likely it would be short-lived. Earlier I said that the game would take on more identity akin to like Roblox. I think that's true mainly because Roblox is like more slopified and it's got a lot of kids on it, like very like younger people. So I think the community will probably look a lot more like that going forward. As far as mainline, mainstream Minecraft goes. Now, those are a lot of negatives, I guess, and that's kind of a theme with these advice column videos, but let me talk about the positives. So, what's going to change for the better? This is a trend that I've started to see recently. Of course, you have the rise of old Minecraft players because they realize that they don't really like where the game is currently going, da-da-da-da-da. But really, people who just pick a version they like and play on it. I've seen plenty of people say like, oh, I didn't really care for 1.17, so I've been playing 1.16 for the last 5 years. I find it interesting that people are drawing a line in the sand and not going along with the updates anymore. I think it's really neat. The retro modding scene is getting a lot bigger, that's for sure. But not only that, as game design and game making becomes more and more accessible and popular, more and more games, new games will be made to take more of Mojang's spotlight. Especially people who are kind of competing for the title of Minecraft 2. Minecraft 2 will not only be different, of course, legally distinct from Minecraft, but it will also be an improvement on most of the things Minecraft could do better on, but won't because of bureaucracy or long-standing framework or whatever, or player tradition. Vintage Story is a great example of this. Pretty much everything that Vintage Story does is an improvement on Minecraft as far as the processes go. Usually they aim for more realistic, which it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Think about like Voima, think about like Alamiria. They're not trying to be more realistic, but they are trying to be more fun, be more workable, have a better solid foundation that isn't just layers and layers of bureaucratic and thoughtless changes. By that I mean something like villager trading. It's been around for, how long has that been around? 7 years? the state that it's been in, the meta of the game has been start a slave plantation for the longest time. Mojang can't or will have a very hard time changing that because of community outrage. That will be a very hard thing for them to do because now all the player base is very used to it. And it's because they didn't think about the change when they added it in. Obviously, it makes the game way easier. So if you make a mistake like that, or you just thoughtlessly add something that makes the game easier, the challenge that it adds does not outweigh how easy it makes the game, or how rewarding that certain mechanic is. It will be abused, it will be part of the culture, and then people will be mad when you remove it. Minecraft has a very long history of this happening. New games don't have to suffer from this issue. And a lot of people are making their own new versions of Minecraft or their own personally improved versions of the game, which is really fascinating to see. Retro modders and original games alike. BTA is another good example of this. People who are just starting their own fork of development. Another aside, but a lot of people will complain, they're like, oh, I tried BTA, but it doesn't feel like beta. It's not supposed to feel like beta, is it? It's just supposed to be a fork of development. In the same vein, BTA players who say that they're actually just playing beta 173 are wrong. Sorry, they're wrong. It's not. It's not recognizable. It is its own developmental branch. I think that game design and block games and people looking for this creative outlet in sandbox game like this becoming more democratized is a good thing. It's kind of like, and I talked about God Emperor of Dune earlier, and most people probably haven't read that book. It was hard enough for me to read. But basically in God Emperor of Dune, there's this God Emperor, he's a big worm, and he has a prophecy that mankind will destroy itself. He is functionally immortal, and because of this prophecy, he is going to reduce galactic society's technological capabilities down to the medieval level. So everyone lives a very safe and unambitious life. They basically have medieval technology. They still use like horse and buggies to get around. But this is a universe where space travel is possible, but it's incredibly rare because he never allows it. This is all an effort to preserve mankind, to stop it from destroying itself, but it's also an effort to kind of shape the next few thousand years of history. Because when he dies, and he knows this is exactly what's going to happen, technology is no longer going to be behind this big wall. And so humanity explodes out into the universe. It goes everywhere. People start their own factions. People go everywhere else. And this is secretly what he kind of wanted all along. It was all part of his plan. Not that that really matters, but I compare that to Mojang simply because Mojang had a hold over the community for the longest time. A hold over sandbox games and block games and voxel games in general. And now it's breaking down. Now people are realizing they can make their own, or they can go to other games. And other games are becoming more popular and starting to share the spotlight. And that's kind of like the God Emperor dying, his hold loosening, and people exploding out everywhere and figuring that they can do their own thing and they can innovate and create new stuff. That's what I compare it to. Kind of. But ultimately, I think that is a good thing. And I think you should check other block games out if you really care about Minecraft. Voima's development is really interesting. Alamiria is already a pretty fun and functional game to play. Vintage Story is great. It's early access, supposedly, but you could play it fully now. It's awesome. There are others, I'm sure. There's this video by Fairy Gary once, and I'm just going to ping him because I kind of want to know what his thoughts would be on this. And he talked about how the recent code obfuscation, or deobfuscation, right? Basically, Mojang revealing what all the functions and variables and yada yada code stuff actually means and what it does for modders is objectively a good thing, but it also could mean that Java Edition is soon to be discontinued. Simply because other companies kind of do the same thing before they discontinue their mainline games. They put the power into the hands of the player, the power of development into the hands of the modding community. They say, here's the source code, here's everything laid bare, do what you want, because we're not going to do it. Again, that's a callback to like God Emperor of Dune, I guess. Now humanity has the will and technology, and it's no longer controlled by the God Emperor Mojang anymore, right? So they can go out and they can fend for themselves and pioneer and settle new planets and form their own societies, create their own mods, that kind of thing. I do not play modern Minecraft, so I do not care. If it switched over to Bedrock, I really dislike the look and feel of Bedrock Edition. There's something about it I just really don't like. So I don't think I would play it, and that sucks because, I've always wanted there to be an end update, or I'd always wanted there to be an update where Mojang just fixes all their crap and makes it better. But if that's only going to happen on Bedrock Edition, that would be a shame, because I'd be very disinterested in playing it. Oh well. But I don't mind. I mean, I'm satisfied enough in these older versions, and I'm satisfied enough in the modding community's hands. People make all kinds of great stuff all the time. I think the last thing I haven't answered is, what will Minecraft be as a hobby in the future? That's hard to say. It's definitely different than it used to be. How? Hard to say. People talk a lot about how they never can get as interested or creative as they did when they were a kid, or never had the same fun in this game as they did when they were a kid. That's certainly true. I play it a lot differently now than I used to as a child. And in the same vein, people say that the only reason I play an old version, or the only reason you play an old version, is because of nostalgia, because you miss being a kid, and that's what you really want. You want to be young again, and you want to have no responsibilities. And it's got nothing to do with how the game design has evolved over 15 years, which is a very long time, by the way. And that's nonsense. There is a truth to the fact that kids play it a lot differently than adults do. But not only that, the adults who played Minecraft in 2010, almost the first community of the game, they play it a lot differently than adults who play it in 2025. Kids who played it back in the day, you know, when I was a kid, essentially, I played it a lot differently than kids today play the game. A lot differently. Minecraft didn't nearly have as much stuff. It didn't have nearly as many cute characters just designed for plushies and trends and stuff. It didn't have hardly any of that. It was very basic. It was very bare bones. When I was a kid, I fell in love with the creative aspects of the game. And I already loved the characters who were in it. The skeletons, the zombies, the creepers. I loved them. I didn't care if they weren't super stylized and extremely functional and original. I remember, I think it was for like Halloween, or it was for my birthday. It's kind of a lame thing. I was a kid and I had a sewing machine, and I bought a bunch of felt and polyester, whatever. And I made Minecraft mob faces. I made like a creeper, a zombie, a slime, a magma cube, and a pumpkin. And I made these like mob heads, and I stuffed them. I made them with the sewing machine, and then I stuffed them. And I gave them to all my friends. And I think it was my birthday I did this on. And I gave it to everybody who came, which wasn't very many. I don't even remember who I gave it all to. Oh yeah, and I made a pig. I made a pig as well. I forgot about that. But anyway, I was a kid when I did this. But kids these days kind of don't interact with Minecraft that sort of way, because Minecraft isn't the same game. I'm not going to get really specific about that. I mean, it's just different. I'm not going to say if it's bad or worse or whatever, or like how different it is, because it's a whole other conversation. But people interact with the game differently. Adults today interact with the game differently than how adults then interacted with it. Kids today interact with it differently than how kids then interacted with it. It just is the truth. That's just how it is. A lot of it's got to do with how the game is different. A lot of it has got to do with how the culture is different, because pop culture is rapidly changing and evolving and being replaced and rewritten. So things are just different. That's all I'm going to say. One thing I will say is that the community being so large and so Pinterestified, so many builds and creations in the community are very stylized and made by like a team or some dude who dedicates their entire work to creating the perfect shaded, textured, one perspective photos for Twitter or for Instagram or Threads or Blue Sky or whatever you use. They got the little watermark on it that has their name so nobody steals the build. That kind of thing, I think, is very discouraging for the average player to see. And that's not something that you always had, though it's inevitable. I'm not going to say that you can just, like, I'm not going to say that Mojang could have really avoided that. That's kind of just how the landscape is now. There's nothing that can be really done about it. Vintage Story, I'm sure, and already is, will go the same exact direction eventually. But it's just a little bit motivation killing if you're not good at building or if you're not good at this kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be, but it can be. What's interesting is that all the stuff that impressed people back in the day, all the cool builds and like the cool bases that people loved, way back. You couldn't just take a photo of them from one angle, post it, and then people would love it. In fact, some of the old Minecraft builds are really hard to just take a single photo of to give you the full idea of what they are. They're really meant to be walked around and experienced and like lived in. That's what makes them great. That's just kind of a thing that I've noticed. If you think on a lot of old Minecraft world tours, maybe some of the less appreciated ones, they build these really cool bases. There's this one I really like called Codester Kingdom. It's an older one. It's a few years old. He's only got one video. But, like, taking one photo of it is really difficult to do and give you the full perspective of it. You kinda have to walk around that whole thing to really get an idea of how much work has been put into this and how cool it really is. That is a community and hobby evolution. I think that's something that I can definitely point to and say will continue in the future or will at least change. Other than that, though, I've been talking for long enough. I think you get the point. Let me know if you disagree with me or agree or give me your own thoughts or whatever. Bye.